In this video, I'm going to be doing a review and giving you my thoughts of the Backun Alpha Clarinet.
My name is Josh Gu, and I'm taking my years of experience learning, teaching, and performing, and sharing all of my best clarinet and music tips so you can get more out of your practice, and most importantly, have fun. You can learn more about all of my many resources at QuickStartClarinet.com, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell to get notified when I post new videos.
Before we get started with my thoughts on the clarinet, I just want to mention that this is not a sponsored video by Backun. They did send me the instrument for free to try out, but everything in this video are my honest opinions about the Backun Alpha Clarinet. So to start, before I give you my thoughts and sort of bias your opinions, I think I'll start with playing it just so you can see how I sound on this instrument. So there's a quick little play test demonstration, some scales and some good stuff to hear the instrument. As a disclaimer that I'm gonna say all the time on all of my equipment stuff, the equipment is going to sound how you make it sound. You as the player have much more impact over the sound of the equipment than the equipment itself. As a general rule, I say you can expect that the equipment will sound pretty much the same as you sound in about a month once you get used to it. Maybe when you first try it, there's a few differences, a few subtleties that you notice in the sound quality, and maybe those will sort of integrate into your playing a little bit over time, but much more so, you're gonna figure out what you need to do on the equipment and have the flexibility to move towards the sound that you want. So when it comes to equipment, much more important is the feel of how it feels to play it. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this review, is sort of my feelings on a few important key aspects of the clarinet. But first, before we get into that, just so you know, the equipment I'm playing on, my mouthpiece, reed, and ligature are my standard go-to equipment. It's a Ramon Wadkowski Model 1 mouthpiece, gold-plated Bonad inverted ligature, and then the D'Addario Reserve Evolution size 4 reeds. So this is my normal mouthpiece, normal setup, which I felt like was going to give me the least biased results because it's going to feel mouthpiece, ligature, reed-wise the same as my normal clarinet, whereas doing a different mouthpiece adds a whole nother factor into it. It might be a little weird to be playing like a $300 mouthpiece on a $1,000 clarinet, but it does make a big difference when you change mouthpieces, and this clarinet still sounded great with other mouthpieces that I tried. So in general, we're neutralizing and controlling for the variables of the mouthpiece this way, even though the mouthpiece may also be helping to make the clarinet feel and sound how I'm used to feeling and sounding on my regular setup. But all of that nuance aside, let's talk about the features and the feeling of the Backun Alpha Clarinet. So I came up with this scoring system for equipment and clarinets specifically to give just a kind of general feel for what they are. Remember that these are numbers which look very objective, but all of this is my subjective feelings. You may feel completely different and may completely disagree with these numbers, and that's totally normal. It doesn't mean that my numbers were wrong. It just means that these numbers are how I feel. It just gives us a little bit of an objective way to compare things, in my opinion, and how I feel on them. Hopefully you'll have a similar experience as well. So starting off with tone, and again, the tone is going to change and adapt as you get used to playing it. Even over the couple of weeks that I've been exploring and experimenting with this instrument and playing it over a few different sessions, I find that my tone's getting closer and closer to what I'm used to feeling and how my normal buffet tradition feels. But in general, for tone, this is not a wooden clarinet. It's a synthetic, plasticky-like material. So it doesn't quite have the tone and hold up to the tone quite as well as a professional wooden clarinet. Again, this is a student, not wooden clarinet, so we wouldn't expect it to hold up to that. So overall for tone, I'm giving it a 76, which again may seem low, but that's in the context of all of the potential options. So a 76 out of 100 seems like not a great grade, but for a student clarinet, I'm pretty happy with it, especially for a non-wooden clarinet. Now with tone, I sort of broke it up into a couple of different categories and sort of subcategories that I think are much more important than just kind of the general sound that you're going to work with and figure out how to sound the way you normally sound anyways. These other categories give us more of a feel for the tone and the sound quality and how it feels to play, which I think is much more important. The first one is consistency. Consistency is all about how the registers feel compared to each other, going chromatically, note by note. Is it a consistent quality of sound? Because if the certain notes are popping out or certain notes sound fuzzy or dull, even as you get used to playing it and sort of find your sound on the equipment, those are still going to be issues and problematic. So for consistency, I gave it a 91 out of 100. I think this is an amazingly consistent instrument. You may have seen in the title or the thumbnail of this, I'm calling this sort of clarinet on easy mode. And that's very much because of the consistency. It's so easy to play really consistent through the whole range of the instrument. Everything just comes out and sounds the same. We'll be talking about that a little bit later on in one of the other sort of categories as well, but amazingly consistent instrument. Up next is flexibility. Flexibility is the ability to get sort of different tone colors, different dynamics, really have that nuanced sort of shaping and phrasing that you want from an instrument, and really a wide range of different colors and expressive possibilities. That's by far the biggest weakness of this instrument. I find this instrument to be quite inflexible, and it's really a challenge to do the musical ideas that I want on this instrument, or at least as much as I want. You should check out this other video where I do a side-by-side comparison of the Backun Alpha, the Backun Alpha Plus, and my regular buffet tradition. And I think in that video, when you hear them side by side, you can really get a sense for the lacking flexibility on the Alpha. I don't think that's necessarily a problem for this instrument. It is its biggest weak point, but I think it makes sense because this is designed for students. And every time for starting out students, I would prioritize ease of playing, getting the notes to come out really easily and consistently, over flexibility and variety of tone colors. Consistency and ease of playing, so much more important for students who are just starting out. As they upgrade later on, that's when you can really look for something that provides the flexibility and nuanced. And I think that's especially something that's more on the professional end of instruments, where that really starts to make a difference. For student and intermediate, I think a little bit inflexible might actually be a good thing. Now moving on to the next topic, which is intonation. Intonation is fantastic on this instrument. I had to wrestle with it a little bit to get it to play well in tune, but I was able to find well in tune on every note across the registers, and the sort of normal clarinet-like tuning tendency things are there, but they're not overly an issue. They're not so extreme that it causes problems or that you really have to fight with it. It's all pretty easily managed. So I gave it an 86 out of 100 on intonation. And then the last category is response. And again, this is where this instrument is just mind-blowingly good. The ease of playing all of the registers is kind of ridiculous on this. I've been talking for a little bit now. My reed's dry, and let's see on the first try what happens. I'm going to play from the shallow, clarion, altissimo through the registers. easy, easy, easy. I think on my buffet tradition, I'm able to do that, but it takes a little bit of warming up. I need to like trust my reed. This was the reeds drying out, and I just popped it out, no problem. It's super easy to get all of the notes out on this. So I gave it a 90 for overall response. I think the lacking flexibility sometimes makes it hard to start super duper soft or have like really dramatic louds and things like that. So there's like a little bit marked off for responsiveness in that regard. But as far as getting the notes out easily, absolutely amazing, really incredible. Generally, I would say easier than the buffet tradition. You can see my scores for the buffet tradition. It's very slightly higher in response just because it is easier at those extremes of dynamics. But again, if you're a beginner who's trying to get the notes out and you're not worried about very sophisticated and nuanced musicality, this is going to feel even better than the buffet tradition because of that just absolute ease of getting the notes to come out. So those are my sort of general ratings and general thoughts on the feel of playing this clarinet. I think it makes great sense for a student level instrument, but there are a couple other little nitpicky things that I want to mention as well. The first one that really sticks out to me is when I'm putting it together, the bridge key doesn't have little lines on that. Usually clarinets will have like little lines or some way to indicate that the bridge key is assembled properly. And I think especially on a student level instrument, that's really, really important. Yes, it may not always be like exactly lined up where the best alignment is, but I think for students, you want them to feel comfortable and confident and have an obvious way to make sure that they're lined up properly, because if you twist that and misalign it, then you'll have all kinds of issues and things that feel like you're doing something wrong when you're playing, but it's actually just you didn't put the instrument together correctly. And that's probably one of the more common beginner issues that come up. So I would love to have any help possible to make that easy. And I think by having the lines there when you're putting it together, you just intuitively and instinctually want those to line up. So that's one thing that I would like to see. It's very interesting. This has left hand E flat. It's an optional part of it. I don't really see any reason for a student level instrument to have a left hand E flat. I don't hate that there's an option for it, and if it doesn't cost extra, then sure, why not? But it probably does cost extra, and I don't think it would be worth it at all. The Alpha Plus also has that optional left hand E flat. Also, I don't think it's worth it at all on that if it costs extra. The only time that I would see a left hand E flat making sense on this instrument is if you're a professional and you're getting this as an instrument to be played outdoors and you're really used to using that left hand E flat and find yourself using it all the time. But I think even most professionals would get used to it. For me personally, my B flat clarinet has a left hand E flat, my A clarinet doesn't, and it's not the end of the world or a big deal. So I can't complain too much that it's an option. It's nice to have it as an option, but it just seems a little bit weird that it is an option. Another very interesting thing about the Backun Alpha is that the bore, the tenons actually aren't a standard size. It's a proprietary size tenon. So if you take a barrel from another instrument, and this is the barrel from the Alpha Plus, Alpha Plus, you'd think they would work together, but they don't actually go together because this tenon is bigger than your standard tenon. This is a standard barrel size, so standard barrels won't work on this because the tenon's wider. It is interesting though, I don't think it's because the bore is wider, because when I roughly measure the bore of this instrument feels the same as my buffet tradition, whereas the bore of the Alpha Plus actually feels a little bit smaller, which is interesting. But that means that you can only use the Alpha barrel that comes with it, so there's no possibility to upgrade the barrel. Any mouthpiece fits. This is my standard mouthpiece. It fits the same way in this as it does in my Brad Bain barrel. So you can upgrade the mouthpiece, which is fantastic because the mouthpiece will make a very big difference in the sound. I think barrels make a pretty big difference too, so it's kind of a shame that you can't put an upgraded barrel on this. That being said, the barrel that's included sounds fine and plays great, so I wish you could, but it's not the end of the world that you can't put a different barrel on this. So those are my thoughts on the Backun Alpha Clarinet. If you're starting to play the clarinet, or you're early on in your clarinet journey and your clarinet is maybe an old one from when you used to play many years ago, it's not very good, or maybe you're new and you're renting a clarinet and looking to own your own clarinet, I'd highly recommend the Backun Alpha. It's a fantastic instrument. So easy to play for a beginner. It's really a nice playing experience from the ease of playing and the responsiveness of it. If it had a little bit more flexibility and tone color possibilities, then this would be a really competent instrument from first starting out all the way well into intermediate, maybe even advanced. You could maybe get into college on this instrument if it had a little bit more tone flexibility to it. But the ease of playing is absolutely delightful and makes it the perfect student instrument. It's also at a really great price. Right now, at the filming of this video, it's available on sweetwater.com for $1,131, which is really reasonable for a student instrument and right in the ballpark for student instruments and what you would probably expect to pay for a name brand, good quality student instrument. You can't get it on Backun's website. It is manufactured in China, but the manufacturing is really great, and I believe it's shipped from there to distributors. So Sweetwater is a place you can get it. You can get it on Music and Arts too, or at Music and Arts. I believe they're a little bit more expensive at Music and Arts, at least at the time of filming this. I will also say too that it comes with a Protégé mouthpiece, which is a really solid mouthpiece as well. You can check out next week. I'll be doing a review of the Protégé mouthpiece by Backun. So if that's up, then you can see it there, or a link in the description. Or if you're watching this when it came out, you'll have to wait till next week to see that review. But really solid mouthpiece that comes with it. So getting a pretty solid mouthpiece, really solid clarinet for under $1,200 for starting out is a really awesome deal. If this was under $1,000, then it'd be like absolutely amazing, no brainer. So if in the future you're seeing this and it's maybe for sale or something like that under $1,000, really worthwhile instrument to have. And even if you're playing outside or you want something that's really durable and not something that's gonna crack, then this would be a great instrument to pick up as well, because the price is really solid for the quality of the instrument. So that's the Backun Alpha. You can check the link in the description to purchase it from Sweetwater if you're interested. Just so you know, that is an affiliate link, so that will be supporting the channel at no extra cost to you to get a Backun Alpha through Sweetwater. So check that out in the description. Let me know if you have any questions about this instrument in the comments. I'd be happy to answer or let you know anything that you want to know about it. It's been super fun to try these out, so thanks to Backun for sending this over and letting me try it out. I hope that this has been a helpful review. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoy your Backun Alpha if you end up getting one, and I look forward to seeing you in another video. And last but not least, a huge heartfelt thank you to the Dennersons. This is like the QuickStart Clarinet family who supports the channel and helps to make everything that I do possible. If you would like to support the channel and get some awesome rewards in return where we can work one-on-one over video and you can have my full support moving forward on your clarinet journey, then go to quickstartclarinet.com/supporter.